What movie has made you cry? Artificial intelligence. I lived separately from my mom when I was 13 and this made me cry so much. I felt how the boy felt when he wanted his mom back for just a moment. At the time I couldn't even understand why I cried so hard. I remember how I cried for hours, and every time I watch the ending all these memories just keep flooding in and I always cry even as an adult. The Greatest Showman, specifically the part where Barnum's kids are singing the reprise of A Million Dreams after the girl asks for ballet shoes, lessons, and the parents know that they can't afford it. The look on the parents, his face thinking how can we make that happen, we're dirt poor, out of work, and the sheer hopelessness that a parent feels when they can't do something for their kids. Then he sees the idea for his museum, eventual circus, gets me every damn time. Supernova, a movie about a gay couple going on a road trip when one has Alzheimer's, I think. You know it's sad, meaning you cry even more when he doesn't remember things. I was crying the whole time, since media where you know part of the couple is dying, forgetting things never fails to make me tear up. A good book recommendation, also gay, is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera, and true to the title, They Both Die. I cried with every moment they shared. Deadpool 2 made me the utmost emotional I probably have ever been, many tears from my eyes, and I'm talking the non-laughing kind. His relationship with Vanessa, and his desire to be with her again just really hit me hard, and it doesn't help that I already love her for our actress, Morena Baccarin. Also for some reason I got emotional every time Yukio said hi Wade, just too cute. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood made me cry the most out of any film when I saw it. It was because I saw it about a week after my best friend's father died, and without spoiling the film, it's wonderful and you should watch it yourself. Some of the themes made me think about my friend and all of that, and by the 45-minute mark I just started crying, and couldn't stop. I bet so many other people are going to say this, but Up, one of Pixar's best in my opinion. What really got to me was the scene at the end where Carl shows up to Russell's Boy Scout badge thing or whatever, and gives him Ellie's badge. It was so heartwarming, yet so sad. In Philadelphia, when Tom Hanks walks out of Denzel's office after Denzel says he can't take his wrongful termination because of AIDS case, Hanks stands there for about a minute and pulls off some of the greatest acting of all time. He just kind of looks around with this expression that there is no one to help him and he is entirely alone. It's maybe 30-60 seconds, but it is just a devastating piece of film. Dancer in the Dark, how honestly and raw it portrays crippling anxiety, love, loss and delusions is really heartbreaking. And tragedy. 103, 104, 105, 106. Not a movie, but Anohana made me cry so hard at the end. After I watched it I invited some of my friends over to watch it, and over the course of just over 5 hours made more dick jokes than we probably should have during an emotional anime, and also cried at the end. Not really a movie but a show. The only time I have ever cried over fictional characters. The final 2 episodes of Star Wars, The Clone Wars, when Rex got the order and when Ahsoka removed Rex's helmet after he said his brothers don't care if they all die and take Ahsoka and Rex with them. I watched these characters grow since I was 6 years old, basically grew up with them. A few years ago I was at my new fiancé's house. We watched The Good Dinosaur. The ending when the kid is reunited with his parents made me cry for like 2 hours, mostly because it brought up some bad memories, but also, are those even the kid's real parents? It just didn't seem like they were to me. It was a Korean movie that I don't even know the name of. The mom basically abandons her kids to party and the kids are raising themselves as best they can in squalor while their mom shows up every once in a blue moon. The little girl gets sick, and she looked exactly like my niece, so it hit home really hard, and she dies, and her siblings don't know what to do, so they put her body in a suitcase and bury her at the end of a runway because she loved watching the planes. I cried for 3 days. It was 12 years ago and I'm still not over that movie. Pretty sure it's mentioned here, but Grave of the Fireflies, I get a little teary-eyed thinking about it now, and I haven't seen more than 5 minutes of it in almost 20 years. It's the mostly true story of 2 Japanese kids who survived the fire bombings during WEI. It's so much harder now that I have kids that age. It's consistently one of the film everyone should see once and then cry when thinking about it for the rest of their lives. My love, don't cross that river. Korean documentary about a couple that had been married 76 years. Her husband is dying. She goes to the market and buys like 5 or 6 pairs of kids' pajamas, like the kind you'd see superheroes or Barbies on. She says they're for her husband to take to her children on the other side, that she lost during hard times in the war. She was too poor to get them anything then and wanted them to have something nice to dress in. Later she's burning the clothes and his clothes to send them to the other side for her husband and the kids. Not a movie, but an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Hard Time is the name of the episode. I'm the episode. Miles was put through a life sentence that happens in his mind for committing espionage on a random planet. When he's back at Deep Space Nine, he has to get used to being around people again. What's terrible is that he lashes out at his daughter and wife. Due to this and a lot of other stuff he was put through, he attempts to commit suicide. It's usually around this point that I start crying. I didn't really do the episode justice, so check it out on Netflix if you can. Some TV shows coming in. The end of Stranger Things 3 made me cry. I guess with Peter Gabriel's spin on heroes and with the characters supposed to be dead and everybody moving away, it was like a metaphor for my life when I first watched it. The end of Doctor Who Season 2, not really the story that made me cry. Just the track called Doomsday is really powerful and emotional. Train to Busan, yet again, it's the score that made me cry at the end of this one, but the ending was also really upsetting. What can you learn from this? Make a sad score. Position it at the end of the film. Wings of Desire, by Wim Wenders. Such beautiful B&W cinematography, that camera always moving and circling around Berlin. Such soulful performances from the lead and from Peter Falk, showing his real chops as an actor. The repeated refrain of the Peter Handke poem, "Als das kind dwarf," and just the concept of the angel who stoically and invisibly absorbs your painful thoughts but wishes to reach through to your world, to touch, and taste her and feel, makes my heart ache just thinking of it. The concept was completely butchered in the Hollywood Nick Cage adaptation. So sad. That, and Tarkovsky's Nostalgia, mainly again for the beauty of the cinematography and the slow unfolding of the scenes that just let you reflect on the details and create your own poetry from the images. I'm not expressing it well, but there's a gorgeous experience in watching his films. For some people, others are bored as the fuck, fair enough. And Aaron Brockovich, or any other well-made social realist film where the little guy, gal comes through against the corporate machine. For example, Norma Ree, North Country, etc. That and Mike Leigh films always pull something so real and true it gets me in the feels. I'm probably gonna get laughed at, but the only movie that has ever made me cry was Furious 7, the last one with Paul Walker. I was in college and went with my girlfriend and some friends. I grew up watching those movies. Too Fast, Too Furious was one of the first movies I saw in theaters. a lot of non-standalone anime movies like Kizuna trilogy by Studio Shaft, who are known for their creative or artsy style. The disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya by Kyoto Animation is the non-standalone anime movies that hit me the hardest. Both are 10/10 anime movies but sadly only stuck in 8. 1/10 rating on IMDb because it's not a Ghibli movie. October Sky. At the end, when Homer comes back from the science fair, he tells his friends and fellow Rocket Boys that they're all going to college. When he reconciles with his dad, and when the entire town goes out to see them launch their last rocket, named for their teacher, sick in the hospital with cancer. The tale of Princess Kaguya left me an absolute wreck. I don't think I've cried as much during any film ever, and it's not even close to as being as sad as something like Grave of the Fireflies. I just related to the story so much, which is odd as it's the story of a young Japanese girl born in a bamboo shoot over 1,000 years ago, and I'm a man in his 30s living in the UK. Just finished reading all the comments. Seems like many people feel the same about certain films. I saw Up, Titanic, Forrest Gump and Grave of Fireflies mentioned several times. These are mostly brilliant titles, and I'm sure I cried on the first viewing of most of them. Although this may sound super cheesy, I've got to mention The Bridges of Madison County. That, and Brokeback Mountain are two films which I've watched many times, and cannot help but cry every time. It's a Wonderful Life, every year, usually around the time George Bailey says, "Just remember this, Mr. Potter, that this rabble you're talking about, they do most of the working and paying and living and dying in this community. Well, is it too much to have them work and pay and live and die in a couple of decent rooms and a bath?" Anyway, my father didn't think so. People were human beings to him. But to you, a warped, frustrated old man, they're cattle. Well, in my book he died a much richer man than you'll ever be. Inside Out. I was 18 and watched it on a whim, for whatever reason, seeing emotions displayed since that way helped me understand myself. I even made my grandma, who has struggles with depression but tries to act fine, watch it, and she cried as well. Same with my mom, who has schizoaffective disorder, bipolar and schizophrenia. Not really a movie, but a short I found on Netflix a while ago. It's called No Matter What I Will Always Love You. It's about a girl who dies in a school shooting and the aftermath on her parents. You should watch it. Toy Story 3 and 4 were animations which had an effect. I forgot why in Toy Story 3, but it was near the end, when the toys are in the fire and when he donates the toys to the neighbor's kids. But in 4, when Andy has to leave his crew and move on, in both senses, it was that feeling of attachment and letting go which made a lot of people cry because they get you so engrossed into the movie. Also, Up, they decide to kick you in the guts right in the start of the movie. Chachwa. It's an Indian movie about a student who tried to commit suicide because he couldn't get into the college he wanted. In an effort to help him regain consciousness, his father told the story of his college days. I'm not one to usually cry during movies, and this is the last film I remember watching that made me cry. Such an emotional roller coaster. Not a movie but a show. Futurama's episode Jurassic Park. It's a pretty standard Futurama episode. Maybe slightly sadder throughout some of the flashbacks, but then the last scene comes and boy, I was nothing but waterfalls. Lots. I have a condition where loud orchestrated music causes me to tear up, so when the climax is swelling and the orchestrated themes are kicking into high gear I am bawling. Concerts too. Sometimes just listening got music on my own. I can't help it. It's not even like sad moments or anything like that, just epic shit with epic music. Star Wars, Lotter, Avengers, Godzilla's, Tenet, Johnny Wick, The Rugrats movie when Tommy is about to put the banana mash on Dill, you name it. My eyes get wet. Video games as well. Tinkerbell and the Neverbeast. My little brother wanted to see the movie and my mom took us both to the cinema to watch it, although I said I'm too old for Tinkerbell. Oh my god. At the end of the film a lot of the kids were crying, including me and some of the parents there. I wasn't ready. Soul by Pixar. I've had plenty of movies make me tear up, but Soul 22 struck a bit too close to home on multiple occasions and I ended up having to pause the movie to ugly cry. Watch it if you can. Great movie. Big Hero 6. It was the first film I saw after my granddad somewhat unexpectedly passed away. I've never been one to cry at films, but when Hero and Baymax were in that space thingy having to say goodbye, I bawled like a baby because I couldn't help but think of Granddad. Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I was deeply in love with the girl at that time, but also knew we had no future. During the movie I suddenly had this very painful realization that it was inevitable we would eventually drift apart and my memories of her would slowly fade away. Sleepless in Seattle when he does the monologue about his wife. It gets me every time. I'm gonna get out of bed every morning. Breathe in and out all day long. Then after a while, I won't have to remind myself to get out of bed every morning and breathe in and out. And then after a while, I won't have to think about how I had it great and perfect for a while. It feels weird to admit it, but Inside Out hit me hard. I saw it when I was halfway through college, and I was starting to process all the emotions that come with realizing what it means to be an adult and grow out of the life that I used to have. The concept of a memory that can be both happy and sad at the same time was something I was trying to accept. Mona. Every time I listen to the song How Far I'll Go, it reminds me of the grandmother's stingray and I completely lose it. My husband's answer is Big Hero 6. Wolf Children. Amazing movie, but it humiliated me because I saw it at Otakan one year, and I was sitting right next to the door with the security guard who was looking right at me, and he is getting emotional. I'm trying to keep my stoic face on, then Wolf Boy starts running up the mountain all triumphantly and I'm thinking, oh fuck, if that little bastard howls at the top I'm gonna lose it. He fucking howled at the top. I've only ever cried at 3 movies. The first, Homeward Bound, when Shadow falls through the floor and can't get out. Black Beauty, when we see Beauty in the market at the end, when he can barely call out for his past owner, and A Dog's Purpose, at the death of Ellie the Alsatian. Blue Valentine, 2010, featuring Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams. It felt like a very accurate portrayal of love and relationships in a way most movies can't match. Furthermore, it's really interesting to think of the economic differences when watching it and then later watching A Marriage Story, 2019, featuring Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver. Any movie with father-son resolve. Me and my father were apart for a while after he went to war after 9/11, he cheated on my mother after getting back, but me and my mother have forgave him. Surprisingly, Deadpool 2 actually had some tear-jerking moments in it. When Deadpool takes the bullet, and is temporarily dead, and he sees his girlfriend in a sort of heaven-like place, the dialogue and the emotion on their faces is really moving. I remember being really surprised by how touching it was. Let me set the scene. I was 12 years old, and I had just started my first ever cycle. My mom let me stay home from basketball practice that night, and her and my stepdad went out to dinner. I decided that it was a good time to watch The Notebook. since I'd heard so much about it. It was supposed to be a happy, make you feel better movie, you know? Nobody told me it would absolutely rip my tiny, middle school heart out. I cried so hard my mom thought she was going to have to take me to the ER when she got home because I was hyperventilating. It was rough. Deep Impact, the scene at the end where the astronauts are about to sacrifice themselves to save Earth. One astronaut was blinded on the trip, and his wife gave birth to his first, only kid. After he launched, the crew is saying goodbyes to their family, but this guy's wife is late because traveling is hard when society is crumbling. She runs in with the baby at the very last second. This is the first time he's been able to talk or see his wife and baby since they left. The other astronauts are telling him what his baby looks like and what he's doing. The blind new father astronaut is telling his wife and baby he's never seen only seconds after first meeting him. He lives them and he's with them right as communication breaks up as they start to fly into the comet. I lose it every time.